There we go again with more random Wednesday videos, right? I ain't got a whole lot to do today. I'm taking care of business, but can't really do a whole lot because I just put a set of tires on my truck and I put my leveling kit on. The problem is the camber is way out and I do not want to drive on it like this, so can't get in alignment till tomorrow. So, but man, did I ever put some rubber on these, huh? But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. This is, more Wednesday garbage. You know, people who have really shitty intentions for you, you have to cut these people out. And, unfortunately, many times they're the people closest to you or perhaps even family members. I mean, you would never think that a family member would, try to hurt you or hurt your career or hurt you in life or lie about you and all that shit, but it happens all the time. And and you would never think that the people closest to you would hurt you. The people you trust, you would never think that they would hurt you. Well, think again, because they will. And it's really important to get these type of people, just cut them loose completely. These are the same type of people that they will use some type of an event to reach back out to you and get back in your life. And everything's all's forgotten and forgiven, right? Because you told them to go fuck themselves the last time, and then they use something to get back in, and then they fuck you over again, right? You just have to cut them loose 100%. Now, I've seen in my lifetime a lot of different shit. I have seen and experienced a lot of manipulative people, very manipulative people. I've seen narcissistic people describing narcissism, talking about someone else and completely describing themselves, right? And calling someone else a narcissist when they're 100% describing themselves. I have seen this with my own eyes, and it's not pretty. These type of people, they have, I don't know if you want to call it jealousy issues or what it is, but their intentions for you are not good. They can't stand your existence, right? And instead of just leading their own life and going about their own business, they have to try to damage you somehow and it's usually this, in order to feel better about themselves because their life is so fucked up. Okay? They will tell you all kinds of stories about how, I don't know, let's see. Okay, so they'll tell you how, they're making all this money and they're getting, they're making $100,000 a day and la-da-da, and they're just jamming. And, when the reality is they're fucking broke and losing their house. It's just, that's the type of people I'm talking about. And, you run across a lot of bullshitters in life, and I can handle a bullshitter. I can bullshit with the best of them. But it's one thing to be a bullshitter. It's an entirely different thing to believe your own bullshit, okay? And when you believe your own bullshit, that's where it becomes a problem. And you become the asshole, even though, they'll defend themselves like they're not, and they'll turn it all back around on you. How actually, no, you're the asshole in this situation. Because it's manipulation and it is narcissistic behavior, right? And in the end, like I said, it's all about them feeling better about themselves. And so if you want to be a part of, somebody trashing you in order to feel better about themselves, well, then be my guest. But for me, it's just too much to fucking deal with. I've got too much of my own shit going on. And to have somebody else, they got to fucking dump their bullshit on me in order to feel better about themselves, it's just too much for me. I'm not going to argue about it. I'm not going to do this and that about it. And a lot of it, you see a lot of it in the political arena these days, where this division in this country is fucking incredibly stupid, man. You can't be an independent, even though you claim to be an independent. You can't be that, because the minute you say something about something good about one side, mainly it's if you say something good about the current president, people fucking come unglued on you. You're a fucking Trump tard, and your cult leader told you this and this and that and the other. You don't see it a lot the other way around, and it kind of pisses me off, because Republicans have always been that whole, oh, we don't do that type of thing because we hold ourselves to a better standard. Fuck that. Somebody needs to fucking step up. And, President Trump, he doesn't give a shit. He'll fucking tell you the way it is, whether it's the way it is or the way he thinks it is. But you see a lot of this, and these same people that manipulate. I mean, they're usually, on the left side. They're on the what do they call it? Not conservative side, but they're on the liberal side of things. But they'll also claim in the same token that, oh, I'm just an independent, and this and that and the other. I hold both sides, but they're not. I mean, if anyone's an independent, I hold, and I'm not saying I'm 100% right or anything like that, because I'll never be 100% right. But I've been known on my channel right here to hold both sides accountable. But I also I am going to stick up for my beliefs, whether it's the same beliefs of one party or another. It doesn't fucking matter to me. But when you come unglued on me or anyone else just because they voiced an opinion that your political affiliation doesn't like, and you come unglued on that person, don't be surprised when they tell you to go fuck yourself, and they just leave it at that, because I don't have time to listen to your stupid bullshit. The same people that are saying, oh, did your cult leader tell you that? Are you indoctrinated by that? And this and that and the other. These same people, they they're the ones expressing all that type of behavior, like they're indoctrinated, and they usually are, and that's where we get into political propaganda, and no one has propagandized the machine the way this current Democrat Party has in the past 8 years. No one has. When Nancy Pelosi had to admit things about the Russia hoax, it was a hoax, and they all laughed. Oh yeah, it's just a hoax. It's just a hoax. Well, then it turned out it was. And what pisses me off about that situation is not so much as the people, but the damn New York Times, the people that work for the New York Times, right, who wrote articles about it and won Pulitzer Prizes. They didn't. Oh shit! I'm trying to adjust this. Sorry. The people that worked at the New York Times and wrote stories about the whole Russia thing and ended up receiving Pulitzer Prizes for it, they didn't have to give their Pulitzer Prizes back. The New York Times had to retract, had to make retractions in it and admit that, and I don't even know if they went that far, but people had to admit that, yeah, it was all bullshit. When they asked Nancy Pelosi about it, she flat out came out and said, well, hey, look, that's a tactic we use during election season. And it's like, but you fucking made the whole country believe this man was in bed with Russia, and not just in bed with Russia, but in bed in Russia, getting a fucking golden shower or some shit like that. It's one thing to attack your political opponents with truth. It's another thing to attack your political opponents with bullshit, make the entire country believe it. So, yeah, so this goes back to what I was talking about is, the people in your life. If you have people in your life like this, don't let them bring you into their bullshit. Just tell them to go fuck themselves and leave it at that. Just leave it at that. If they figure it out, they'll figure it out. If they don't, they don't. They're not going to change. If they figure out, they figure it out. But most likely they won't, and they're 100% not going to change, even though they may seem like they will. Maybe they'll come back in, and that's just what they usually do, is they come back in, and everything's all forgiven and forgotten, and nobody says anything about the last time they acted like an asshole. And then, okay, now they're back in, and it lasts for a little while, but before long, believe me, that train ain't never late. And it will happen over and over. And it's a shame. And I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in other people's lives. I've seen these type of people attack the elderly. Because why? Because I think they think the elderly is an easier target. These people usually, they attack, they take a target that they think is weak, a person that won't defend themselves, right? That's usually who they pick, somebody that they think won't defend themselves. And then one day when that person actually does defend themselves, they just go, oh, I don't know what you meant. I didn't mean it like that. That's what they do. They cower down every time. Every time. Because they're also cowards at heart. So I think they choose elderly people, because they think, that elderly people are weak. There's some elderly people I wouldn't fuck with if I was you, if I was them, because there's some badass elderly, and then there's some elderly that, have some badass fucking family members that stick up for them too. So, yeah, I don't know, just things that are on my mind today. Maybe I got too much time to think today, but yeah, trying to, went on vacation, took a week off. It was great. And now back to it, although I'm trying to tie up some loose ends with my truck, and like I said, got some tires and put a leveling kit on the front of it, so that so it doesn't sit like this. It sits level, right? And problem with that is that the camber's way out, and I paid way too much money for these tires to wear the outsides of them out. And then I found out I got a broken spring in the back, so I don't know whether that happened when I was pulling the boat or what, but so I got to do springs, coil springs in the rear, either today or tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how motivated I am. That's all I got for you for now. What are we gonna call this one? I don't know. We could call it, I don't know. Watch out for people. We'll call it something. I'll figure it out in a minute. Peace out.